What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to our final fantasy. No, I got to restart. What's it going to be? Not the final regular season. I guess NFL regular season.
Uh,
Final redraft video of the year.
yeah,
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 there we go.
that's
Okay,
good. I like that. I fuck with that.
there we go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Football Busters podcast. This is going to be our final redraft video of the year. Pretty exciting. It's a little damn, bro.
You know, you know
What am I
what's,
looking for?
you know what's funny too.
What?
Technically, not our last of the year. It's our last of the season.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Cause
I'll be
it's
dead.
it's 2023, baby.
God damn it. What a bittersweet is the word that I was looking for.
Yeah, it's been a long
That's what I
road.
wanted.
Been a long road,
Yeah.
long journey.
All right. Third time's the charm. I
I
got
believe in
this.
you, brother.
Appreciate you.
Always.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Football Busters podcast. Thank you for joining us. We were recording this on Thursday, January 5th, and this is our final redraft video of the season. It's a little bit bittersweet. It's been a long road, but I'm glad we're here. I'm excited for the offseason talk, but we got to get through one more thing before we do that. So, yeah, we're talking week 18 starts and sits.
Mm-hmm.
Intros. My name is Eric. That is my fantastic co-host over there. Will, how you doing this morning, man?
Dog, I'm feeling good and just feeling good about making it through the whole season. Staying consistent, getting this stuff out to you guys every week, and we hope to keep this going for you guys for a long time. So, first of many.
100%. Yeah. One season down. Pretty cool to be able to say that, and we'll keep going.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, like I said, we're talking week 18 starts and sits today. Again, we recommend to everybody out there, if you're still playing, you shouldn't be. Talk to your
Mm-hmm.
commissioners. End it in week 17. This is crazy. And you'll see why it's crazy. Like, we're doing a totally different format for today's video than we have for any of the other sit starts because week 18 is just a totally different beast compared to any other week. You're not sure if teams are going to play their starters or not, stuff like that. So we figured the best way to give advice for this week would be to cover which teams still have something to play for and which teams or which players have incentives to play well this week. So yeah, Will, you got anything to say just about week 18 in general before we get into this?
Yeah, it's just the wildest thing to you play week 18 and literally your entire starting lineup in fantasy could just not be playing. That's the
Yeah,
craziest part. Like, especially if you have a good team, that week 18 could just screw you over so much. It's absolutely ridiculous if people play in week 18. It's the new week 17, guys. Don't let it fool you. It's just stop doing it, please.
yeah. No, 100% agree. It's crazy that you could go a whole season to build such a good team for it not to matter in the most important week.
Yeah, it's
Like, what are
insane.
you doing? But we will get into kind of the meat and potatoes of the episode here. Um, I do want to give credit where credit is due. We're reading from some of these articles, which is mostly like statements of fact. So I just want to give credit before I start to read through these. This is from Yahoo Sports article called Week 18 NFL Motivation Tracker by Kyle Dvorchak. We can link that in the description. Yeah.
I'll make sure it's down there.
Yeah. All right, cool. So we're gonna talk about two articles that are talking about motivation and stuff like that. We can link those down if you guys want to have a look for yourselves. But we'll get into it here. First off, players that have been eliminated from playoff contention. So teams that are least likely to have their starters playing. We have Houston, Cleveland, Arizona, Atlanta, Chicago, Denver, Indianapolis, the LA Rams, New Orleans, the Jets, Carolina, Washington, and Vegas. So keep those teams in mind. We can talk about some of the players that aren't going to be playing. Houston, I mean, you weren't starting too many of their guys anyway, like Davis Mills, Brandon
Mm-hmm.
Cooks, Nico Collins hasn't been playing anyway. I guess Chris Moore. Cleveland, that one's kind of an interesting one to talk about because they have a matchup against Pittsburgh. Do you think that they're going to be motivated just with a divisional matchup there?
Yeah, I think there's a chance that Cleveland could play their starters just so they could play spoiler for the Steelers in this instance. And I know they're Mike Tomlin. It's a little bit of headcanon stuff, but Mike Tomlin's still playing for his winning record streak as well.
Oh, true.
I think
Yeah.
if he doesn't win this week, he'll lose that. So I think that's big motivation going into this week for him as well. So Cleveland might want to be the ones to put the end to that.
Yeah. So that's a really good point. Arizona, they're not playing for anything, so I don't expect much from James Conner
Mm-mm.
or DeAndre Hopkins already got ruled out. Marquise Brown's probably not going to play much. Maybe Trey McBride and Greg Dortch
Yeah,
could be
Greg
guys
Dortch
to
might
look
be a
at.
great start. Honestly, get the young guy out there, get him some experience, and he honestly played well in the opportunities he did get this season too. So, yeah.
Yep. Um, and this one, I guess, probably belongs more in the player motivation category, which we'll get to later. But Atlanta, I think Tyler Algier is like 154 yards away from 1,000 yard season.
Mm.
And I feel like obviously he's going to be motivated to get that, but I think Arthur Smith has been made aware of that, and I think is probably going to do his best to give him the opportunity to get there.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I think they're going to give him the opportunity, especially because they're a run-heavy team. Anyways, they might as well.
Yeah. And then there's not a ton to talk about after that. Like Chicago, Justin Fields has already been ruled out. You weren't really starting many players from their team anyway. The running
Mm.
backs you may have been starting, but I'd stray away from them. Denver, they don't have anything to play for. They suck anyway. Indy, same thing. Rams, same thing. New Orleans, um, I've seen some speculation that like they could be playing. I'm not sure why, but um, I was looking at the other article that we had here, and one of the players that was highlighted was Rashid Shaheed, who's a guy that we've been talking about quite a bit. So even if Chris Olave were to, be shut down, or if they were to move to some of the other backups, I think Rashid Shaheed could still get some play there. So he's a guy to look at. But I don't have much else for the rest of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's just yeah. I mean, I feel like with the Saints, there's still going to be guys like Juwan Johnson might still be a good start late in the season as
True.
well at the tight end position. But like other than that, everybody else's situation is kind of weird. Like Carolina, they might have their starters out there for a little bit and then take them out. You probably have to end up starting people who didn't even start the game if you wanted to have an effective fantasy game out of them, and that's not good.
Right. Yeah, so it can get sketchy in there. But now we can talk about the teams that are in contention to potentially make the playoffs, teams that do have a lot of motivation to still get their guys out there. We're talking the Detroit Lions, Green Bay Packers, Pittsburgh Steelers, Tennessee Titans, Seattle, New England, Miami, and Jacksonville. Um, the Jags and the Titans play for the AFC South title in a playoff berth this Saturday. So that one's obviously going to be huge. There's some big
Hmm.
player incentives to talk about in that one, too. We'll get to that a little bit later. The Steelers, Patriots, and Dolphins are all vying for the final wild card spot in the AFC. So all of those teams have motivation. Um, and then, much like in the AFC, there's three NFC squads looking for the final playoff spot, where the Packers control their own destiny. If they win, they're in. Detroit needs a win and a Seattle loss, and the Seahawks need a win and a Detroit win to get into the playoffs. The only kind of interesting situation here is that the Lions could be eliminated by the time their Sunday night matchup with Green Bay kicks off. But based on the way that they're prepping and just from what we've heard from Dan Campbell so far, I'd be surprised if he sat them, even if that was the case.
I think I saw a quote earlier today, I don't, or yesterday possibly. Dan Campbell saying that whether they were eliminated or not going into tomorrow's game, they were there to win. So
Yeah,
I feel like this is the safe. Well, I don't even feel like I know that this is probably the safest spot for fantasy players to have because these guys are going to be on the field and they're going to be playing because they've still got stuff to play for. So if you got a lot
right.
of players from these teams, you're pretty good. You're pretty set.
Yeah, 100% agree there.
Yeah.
You want to take this next portion here, the clinched with incentives?
Yeah, so we're moving on to the next spot with just playoff teams who have clinched with incentives, which means they have players who are either playing for incentives or they have some incentive for the playoffs still. Like the Eagles are still playing for that 1 seed, Vikings are still fighting for a 2 or 3 seed, stuff like that. So, of course, that's going to be the teams like Baltimore, San Francisco, Minnesota, Dallas, Cincinnati, Kansas City, Buffalo, and Philly. With that being said, we got players like Jalen Hurts, who is pushing to get back out onto the field since, especially after seeing how Gardner Minshew kind of didn't play well last week. Uh,
Right.
and he's pushing to get out there to get that 1 seat clinch for the team. So Jalen Hurts looking to play this week. No matter what his status really says, whether he's limited or not throughout the week, they are pushing to get him out there onto the field to play. You've also got situations like the 49ers and the Cowboys that could both steal the 1 seed through a Philly loss. So they're also going to be out there giving it their all. Cowboys with a favorable, well, not favorable, but decent matchup against Washington, who's not really playing for anything.
You can call it
All
favorable.
right, a
Definitely
favorable, a
favorable.
favorable matchup against Washington.
Yeah.
So it's just things like that you got to really look out for. There's also some scoreboard watching that could take place, but we expect to see starters that are from both of these squads playing. And then the Vikings, like I said earlier, they can only move between the 2 and the 3 seed, but that's still important for later seeding in the playoffs if they were to make it further. I don't think they will, but there's a chance that we will see the starters out there. Also, the Vikings with some notable starters who are playing for records, like Mr. Justin Jefferson playing for,
Yep.
I think he needs 194 yards this week to beat Calvin Johnson's in-season, regular season receiving yards record.
Yep.
You got players like Patrick Mahomes chasing after Peyton Manning's passing yardage record for the regular season. It's just stuff like that you really got to look out for when it comes to these teams. But do you have anything to say about this group in general, Eric?
I don't have too much to add. There was a tweet that I saw coming from Coach Kevin O'Connell of the Vikings talking about their matchup against Chicago, because Chicago is probably going to be sitting a lot of their starters. Justin Fields isn't playing. They do have the seeding between the 2 and the 3 seed to play for, but it's a game that could probably get out of hand early.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he said that with the 2 seeds still in play, they aren't expecting to sit any of their starters. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to play throughout the whole game. And I just think that that's something that's important to watch. Although, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, with Justin Jefferson chasing that record, he could be somebody that stays in. Kirk Cousins might be somebody that stays in specifically for that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely agree. Definitely agree. And then moving on to the next spot we have the teams that have clinched without incentives. So we've got teams like the Los Angeles Chargers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the New York Giants. So in those situations, the Giants and the Bucks are locked into the 6 and 4 seeds, respectively, of course. And Bucks coach Todd Bowles said the starters would play, but we don't really know how long they're actually going to be in the game. Just looking in past years when Tom Brady's playing in a meaningless game, he's never really finished them out. He's left early at least 3 times, looking back on that. We got a tweet here from Greg Allman, who said that on question of Tom Brady and whether he plays in a meaningless final game, he's never taken that game off, started and left early at least 3 times. And that's noting back to 2005 after he left after 3 series, throwing three for 8 and 37 yards. 2009 he left midway through the second quarter, and 2014 he left after the first half after throwing 8 for 16 and 80 yards. So um, we don't really see them playing past halftime or playing really any type of meaningless time in this game because they don't want anybody to get hurt, of course, and there's nothing they're
Yeah.
playing for here. And same goes for the Giants. Um, just taking a look back here, Giants coach Brian Dable was the offensive coordinator in Buffalo when the team had no incentive to play their starters at the end of the 2019 season. And some starters rested, and Josh Allen left after 2 pretty short drives. So he's also been pretty non-committal early this week, but it's also probably going to lean towards them sitting the people who are relevant and keeping them
Yeah.
healthy. Just looking back at history, what do you think about that one, Eric?
I totally agree. The Chargers are the only ones that I think could get interesting because they're playing for either the fifth or sixth seed,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that that actually could be fairly important. I know that they're listed in this article as part of this list that doesn't have an incentive to play. But Brandon Staley was quoted as saying there's certainly an advantage to being the 5 seed from where I stand, so we're going to try and get there. I think it is risky. Um, for a lot of these guys because they're still going to make the playoffs regardless. But I think this could be the difference between them playing against like the either Titans or Jaguars if they
Mm.
get the 6 seed, or sorry, yeah. But if they get the higher seed, I'm getting this all mixed up. But they could either play the Jaguars or they could play like the Bengals, and so I feel like that's a pretty big difference.
Mm-hmm.
And so they might be motivated to try to avoid the worst matchup.
Yeah, definitely agree there.
Yeah, so that will wrap up most of like the team motivation. We can get into some of the player specific motivation, which we did cover parts of it, mostly like the records and stuff that people are chasing. So you covered Patrick Mahomes. He's chasing Peyton Manning. He is 430 yards away from claiming the single season passing yardage record held by Peyton. So I would imagine that he's going to be going after that pretty hard. Which probably means that some of the starters are going to be involved at least early on. Travis Kelsey will probably get some minutes. Um,
Kadarius
MVS
Tony should get some good burn out there.
Kadarius Tony is the one that I was going to bring up. As we brought him up, I think earlier on in one of the videos this week as a guy because of Mecole Hardman's injury and because he's recovered from his hamstring. He's going to be pretty involved. So yeah, look out for that. And then Justin Jefferson chasing Megatron. It's going to be tough after last week's performance. Jair Alexander put a big wrench
Put that boy in a
into.
car seat.
Yeah, he strapped him up. So after only a 15-yard performance last week, he needs 194 yards to break Calvin Johnson's record of 1964 receiving yards in a season. He couldn't have a better matchup though. He gets Chicago, who's terrible against the pass.
Hmm.
You think he can do it?
I think he can do it. I mean, we've seen bigger games, honestly, but like,
Yeah,
I think he can do it.
yeah.
I,
It's gonna be
it's
tight.
gonna be tight. It's gonna be tough because I think Chicago, if they come out there, they might try to, do their best to not have him, but also they're not playing for anything either. But I don't know. I
Yeah,
think we're in for either a really meh game or a historic one.
yeah. No, 100%. And that's the risk you take with playing a week 18, man. Like it could be anything. You have
Yeah.
no idea. Um, and then as far as like direct contract incentives, thresholds that players have to reach in order to get a certain payout. We have a lot of incentives from the Jaguars, not only from the team to win the game to make it into the playoffs, which is huge, but also from some of their players like Zay Jones and Christian Kirk. Zay Jones in week 18 against a poor Tennessee secondary, which I think is worth noting, has to get to 80 catches for $250,000, and he could net another $250,000 if he hits 90 catches. He's entering week 18 with 78 receptions, so 80 catches is certainly within reach, and 90 is potentially a possibility. Um, and then Christian Kirk gets half a million for 80, 90, and 100 receptions this season. He's currently at 78 grabs. So another one where he's really close to that 80-yard mark and 90 is in play. What do you think about those two guys heading into this week?
I'm confident that they'll be able to get to their marks, at least the 80 mark, I feel like.
Yeah.
So but I do think the team's going to try to get them the ball, especially since, like you said, Tennessee's secondary, not good. And this should be a game where both teams are trying to win. So I'm excited to see this one, honestly.
Yeah. 100%. Do you want to talk about DeAndre Carter and some of the Chiefs guys on this list?
Hell yeah. So taking a look at DeAndre Carter, he's looking to get $500,000 if he nets 55 receiving yards against the Broncos in Week 18, and if he scores 2 touchdowns in the final week, he'll see another 500,000. So those are two things that he's chasing, trying to get that another extra $1 million. Juju Smith-Schuster of the Chiefs is 2 receiving yards away from clearing 900 yards and getting $1.5 million. So
That's huge.
yeah, I'm hoping they're gonna get him that. I'm hoping.
I think they can do
Yeah.
it.
And then we got Marquez Valdez Scantling, the guy who's been running wind sprints for the Chiefs lately. If he can get 21 receptions this week against Vegas, he'll get an extra 500,000. So, based on
I don't
his
know about
role
that one.
there, I don't think he's gonna get it. But hey, we could see some crazy shit. Who knows?
They could certainly try.
Yeah.
I did want to mention, so with LA, uh, we're unsure as to how motivated they're going to be to play their starters. And with DeAndre Carter needing those incentives, I think it's a pretty good bet that he's going to get a lot of burn out there.
Hmm.
And then Juju, you said 2 yards away from 900, and like that's worth noting. But obviously, if he goes out there and gets 3 yards and then they sit him, that's not going to be helpful to your fantasy teams. But with that being said, he's 102 yards away from a 1,000-yard season.
Hmm.
I don't know that there's any incentives financially attached to that, but that's a number that a lot of players like to hit if possible. And I know that Andy Reid is aware of it. They talked about it in an interview recently, but we'll see
Especially,
if they're pushing for it.
especially one that he'd like to hit with the 1 year contract, wanting to get re-signed.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
makes sense.
And then some Lions players here that have a lot on the line. Again, another team that's pushing for a playoff berth, so they're incentivized as a team, but also from the player perspective, Khalif Raymond is a 100-yard outing against Green Bay on Sunday. Or sorry, if he were to get 100 yards against Green Bay, that would net him $125,000 in incentives. Um, and he ran around on 40% of the Lions' Week 17 dropbacks. So that isn't very confidence inspiring. But if they were to, I don't know, if they were to get up a little bit big early, maybe he's somebody that could get more burn than usual. Just something worth noting, but a little sketchy when the team is, pushing to win as hard as they are. And then Jamal Williams, he's only 4 yards away from 1,000 rushing yards and an extra $250,000. Obviously,
He's gonna
he's going
get
to
it.
get that.
He's gonna get
Yeah.
it. It's easy.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to talk about the next three guys on the list?
Oh yeah, this one's a fun one. Don't know if you're gonna do this. We got Debo
Oof.
Samuel if he's able to suit up in Week 18. So we're already in a bad spot there to start off with,
Yeah.
which is a long shot. Debo could earn $500,000 with 152 rushing yards. Me personally, I'm not banking on it. I'm sure Eric's not
No.
also.
No.
The next player we're going to talk about, Gerald Everett. His deal in 2022 with LA includes a $250,000 bonus at 50, 60, and 70 receptions, and right now he's at 55. So they could let him play until he hits the 60 catch mark. It's something to just watch out for and see. But as we said earlier, we also believe that, Brandon Staley does want to win this game. So Gerald Everett might not get pulled. It's just 6 catches. He may be out there the entire game as well.
Yeah.
And then just to wrap this section up, we got Tyler Higbee, the Rams tight end, needs 13 more receiving yards to cash in at $500,000 for hitting 600 yards on the year. He has 17 receptions over the past 3 games. He's leading all LA pass catchers right now, so I think it's safe to say he's probably going to get this one as well.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree there. Yeah, the Debo Samuel one is really, really scary. I One, we don't know if he's going to play at all. Two, we've talked about it in the news and injuries for the past couple weeks as, he's somebody that I'd be nervous to start in his first game back. And then especially when the incentive that we're talking about is rushing yards, like
Kind of
they need him
crazy,
for the playoffs. Like
kind of nuts.
he's not going to go out there at less than 100%, and the team's not going to throw him in between the trenches a bunch to try to get him this record, I don't think.
It would be a wild move by San Francisco, honestly.
Yeah. No, that'd be crazy. So that's the majority of what we wanted to talk about. I hope that that's kind of helpful. I know that there wasn't a lot of, direct start this guy, sit this guy, but that's kind of the game that you play in week 18. You don't Nothing is guaranteed, nothing's a given.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sure what's going on. We're just trying to give you the best information that we have available. There are, like we said, we're going to link these articles, and there's more speculation in here for some of the teams that don't have incentives
But that's
for their
exactly what you're
starters.
dealing with this week is speculation. You're not dealing with
Yeah,
facts. So it's kind of tough to tell you who exactly you should play or not.
right. So I don't even think we're going to get really into these teams, just because I don't really have the confidence to tell you to start these guys, because I don't know that I could do it if I were in a Week 18 championship. But again, these will be linked in the description below, so feel free to go check them out for any of the advice that you'd like there. But I think that'll probably do it for a Week 18 start sit. We appreciate you guys very, very, very much for sticking with us this season. Couldn't I don't know. I couldn't be happier. We got through the entire season. It's our first one in the books,
Hell yeah.
and yeah, like you said, a lot more coming down the pipeline.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching, even just this video, but just this whole season. It's been quite a journey for us, and I know for you guys too. And yeah, we're just hoping to keep things going and keep getting bigger and keep getting better. So thank you guys for all your support, everything throughout the season. I'm talking like we're never gonna see you guys again. We're gonna see you fucks next week. But make sure you guys check out the description. Like Eric said, we're going to have links to those articles. That way you guys can read them, check them out yourself, see some of the other speculation. You also find links to our socials, Twitter, TikTok, stuff like that. And just make sure you do all that great YouTube stuff. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way you know when we drop all our new videos. And yeah, that's all I really got for the people right there.
Yeah, I think that'll do it. Check us out in the upcoming weeks. We'll be talking more dynasty stuff. We'll be talking, 2022 season wrap up, what we learned, stuff like that. So if you're interested, come check us out. If you're still with us at this point in the video, we love you as always, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.